Most people assume that intelligence looks a certain way: organized, focused, disciplined. But what if some of the strangest, most frustrating habits you have are actually signs that your brain is working at an unusually high level? Here's the thing: science doesn't always paint genius the way Hollywood does. It's rarely the guy with the perfect desk and color-coded calendar. More often it shows up in people who can't stop talking to themselves in the middle of a grocery store, or who lie awake at 2 a.m. replaying a conversation from 3 years ago. People who, from the outside, might just look a little chaotic, but your brain doesn't see it that way. And once you understand what's actually happening beneath the surface, these so-called weird habits start to make a lot more sense. The first one is excessive self-talk. And I don't mean the occasional, "Where did I put my keys?" I mean full, running inner monologues. Researchers at Bangor University found that talking to yourself, whether silently or out loud, actually improves cognitive performance. It helps the brain organize complex information, regulate focus, and work through problems more efficiently. So if you've ever caught yourself narrating your own life like a documentary, that's not a quirk. That's a highly active prefrontal cortex doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The second sign is something most people would call overthinking. You know the feeling. It's late at night, you're trying to sleep, and your brain decides now is the perfect time to analyze every decision you made in the last decade. Here's the strange part. This kind of deep rumination is closely linked to what psychologists call high-functioning anxiety, and it tends to show up most in people with above-average intelligence. A study from the journal Intelligence found a significant correlation between verbal intelligence and the tendency to ruminate. Your brain isn't torturing you. It's running simulations trying to prepare you for outcomes most people wouldn't even think to consider. Third, and this one surprises a lot of people, is being messy or disorganized. There's actually research out of the University of Minnesota suggesting that people who work in cluttered environments tend to produce more creative and unconventional ideas. The theory is that visual disorder triggers divergent thinking, the kind of open-ended mental exploration that leads to original connections. If your desk looks like a crime scene but your ideas are consistently sharp, that tracks. The fourth sign is intense curiosity that pulls you way off topic. You sit down to research one thing and 2 hours later you're deep in an article about medieval beekeeping. This isn't a focus problem. It's what cognitive scientists call need for cognition, a personality trait associated with high intelligence. People with a strong need for cognition aren't satisfied with surface-level answers. They pull threads, and those threads often lead somewhere unexpected. Fifth, you feel deeply bothered by inefficiency. Slow processes, repeated mistakes, systems that could obviously be better. These things genuinely irritate you in a way that seems disproportionate to others. Think about it for a second. That irritation comes from something real. High IQ individuals are often hypersensitive to patterns, which means they notice broken ones instantly. Are often hypersensitive to patterns, which means they notice broken ones instantly. What reads as impatience is actually pattern recognition happening faster than the environment can keep up. And the sixth sign, one of the most misunderstood, is chronic second-guessing. Even after you've made a decision, your brain keeps revisiting it, looking for holes. Most people interpret that as insecurity, but psychologists recognize it as intellectual humility in action, the cognitive awareness that you might be wrong, that more information might change the picture. That's not weakness. That's one of the clearest markers of genuine critical thinking. And the sixth sign, one of the most misunderstood, is chronic second-guessing. Even after you've made a decision, your brain keeps revisiting it, looking for holes. Most people interpret that as insecurity, but psychologists recognize it as intellectual humility in action, the cognitive awareness that you might be wrong, that more information might change the picture. That's not weakness. That's one of the clearest markers of genuine critical thinking. And this is where things get interesting. None of these traits on their own make someone a genius. But together, they paint a picture of a brain that never really goes offline, one that's constantly processing, questioning, and looking for a deeper layer of meaning in everything it encounters. The mind that seems restless to the outside world is often the same mind that, when given the right problem, doesn't stop until it finds the answer. If you find yourself curious about how the mind really works, why we think the way we think, feel what we feel, and behave the way we do, consider subscribing. There's a lot more to explore.